Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment talk show that covers New York Giants football, Mets baseball, movies, and TV shows. It's got some funny stories and life lessons along the way. It's hosted by Giant Mess. That's me, the Real Cinch Neal Lynch. I'm a former college quarterback and pitcher with a film and media studies degree. I do not play professional sports. I am not a professional screenwriter. I am currently an overthinker and one hell of a regretter. On today's episode, we're going to talk about my time with my 4-year-old daughter. We went to a new ice cream place, so I'll give my first impressions of that. The Giggleberry Fair and the 4-H Fair. We faired it up. We're all faired out. We'll also talk about the Metros. New York Mets, 5 losses that kind of define the season, explains a lot about what's going on and why they are sellers at the trade deadline. We're going to go over all the trades that occurred at the trade deadline. David Robertson, our closer. Mark Canha, our starting left fielder. Tommy Pham, somehow also our starting left fielder. Dominic Leone, a middle relief pitcher. And then our $43 million twinsies, Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. We'll look at some the plans for 2024 as well. And then Giants talk. We extended our starting left tackle, second team All-Pro left tackle, future Hall of Fame left tackle Andrew Thomas. In a stunning turn of events, Saquon Barkley signed the franchise tag, and we threw a couple little extra incentives his way. So we'll dive into that contract, and we'll look at some of the training camp takeaways and notes, some highlights there. Do we have a late round gem in the mix? Ooh, sexy. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Okay. So I had my daughter, my sweet, sweet daughter. It was my time to shine as a father this past weekend, and we ended up going to our dinner date was at Wendy's. Only the best for my little girl. I spare no costs to treat her right, but shit on that all you want. I cannot afford to keep taking her to these fancy schmancy places that are like $80 $90 a pop. What is the goddamn point of that? I know dads spoil their daughters, but I don't want to do that quickly. It's like, I got to let her know to be economical, to be frugal. You know what I'm saying? I'm on a tight budge. So yeah, we went to Wendy's. We pull in the parking lot and she's like, I don't want to go to this restaurant. And I'm thinking to myself, the jig is up, you guys. The jig is up. She knows that I'm trying to be a tightwad, a Scrooge. She's calling me out. And I was like, well, what restaurant do you want to go to? And she goes, I want to go to a restaurant that's far away. I'm like, well, gas is also out the ass in terms of pricing. So that, no, we're going to Wendy's right here. And so she got a little down about that, but eventually came around. And then I had a question, a very important question that I'm going to pose to you right now regarding dessert. Ice cream or cookies? Can't have both. You got to pick one. Gun to your head. What are you picking? And so I asked her, ice cream or cookies? And her response, which is worse for your brain? What? How is that? What? A 4-year-old asked me that. Which is worse for your brain? And I'm going to be honest, I didn't know off the top of my head. I had to Google it. And I still don't know the answer, but I know this. Neither of those are good for your brain. Neither. The answer is neither. But I didn't want to say that because it's like, am I going to give her a complex where she's not going to have ice cream or cookies until she gets to college, and then all of a sudden it's like she sees she's just gonna go hog wild and balloon up to 400, and she's just dipping Otis Spunkmeyer cookies in Ben and Jerry's ice cream 24/7. Oh boy! So I was just like, well, neither are really good, but what does your heart say? What does your tummy say? Let's not worry about your brain just yet. Now is the time to really do all the damage you want to your brain, because it's you have to, once you get to my age, it's you can't do the kind of damage you used to. So she ended up opting for ice cream, and I think that was a good choice. It's a good summer choice, right? Because I mean, me personally, I love a good chocolate chip cookie. I mean, Otis Spunkmeyer cookies. When I was 11 or 12, you warm those up a little bit. I could go to town on those, and I did, and that's why I'm forever husky. Ice cream is a different story. I don't know that I've ever really fallen in love with a particular ice cream. I kind of went on a cotton candy ice cream binge when I was in 8th grade. There was cookie dough there for a while, was hot in the streets when I was 13. And then, I don't know. It's like, even when I was hardcore Atkins, like 2003, it's like every Sunday I would get like the deluxe ice cream brownie sundae. Hot fudge all up on that ice. So, yeah, I would probably opt for cookies. And there are some good ass cookies in the Princeton area at Crumble. I've talked about them before. They have the most awkward employees, but the best cookies. CRUMBL. So that was a tough decision, but she went with ice cream. And I was like, I don't think we should go to Thomas Sweets anymore. I don't know what it is, but like you have to go and to pay for parking. And then it's like there's a line and just, I don't know. Let's try something new. So I did a search and I came up with, I guess it's a new place called Melba. It used to be called the Purple Cow. It's now called Melba. And, pretty high ratings, pretty good reviews and ratings early on. No menu online, just pictures of the menu, which is frustrating because you have to try and like download it and then zoom and like it's not all in one place and they have to go through pictures. So, there's a line out the door, down the stairs. So it's a pretty popular place already. And it's hot. It's hot. We've had experience a little bit of a heat wave. For us, it was in the mid 90s, upper 90s. I said that to someone who lives in Arizona, and they said, oh, well, the average high for us was about 110, 115 this past week. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Ooh. It's a dry heat, though, right? Which she did say, not in those same words, but it was just like, oh, at least we don't have humidity. And I was like, all right, yeah, but when you feel like you're about to spontaneously combust, could be an issue. So, we wait in line, we get inside, and I'm taking a look at my final looks at the menu. And I was so proud with my decisions, so confident in my decisions that it was like, and that's rare when I'm making decisions, especially at a new place, first time there. I was like, I'm going to go with Moon Rocks. What are Moon Rocks? So according to this menu, it's Oreo ice cream with bits of Oreo. And I'm like, oh, I asked her, what do you want? She said white with black bits, the black things coming out of it. And I was like, okay, Oreo cookies and cream. And so this felt like cookies and cream. Now, all I had to do was look down at the ice cream buckets that they have in front of you right there with the shield. And you could confirm whether or not it's really what she wants. And nope, I didn't do that. I was just like so cocky about this order that I was like, I got it. Moon Rocks Mini, Cow Tracks Double. Did I need a double Cow Tracks? Absolutely not. But fuck, it was good. So, of course, the guy hands me the mini and it's chocolate. And I'm like, okay, don't panic. She's probably going to take this in stride. It's not going to be a huge deal. She's not going to have a meltdown. I've asked her before, what's your favorite ice cream? She said vanilla, but I also like chocolate. And I was like, okay, so she's just going to roll with the punches here. It's just going to roll off the back like a water on a duck. And as I'm handing to her, she can see her face just completely fall to the floor. Just like, and like the water the tear machine cranking up. So yeah, she was like, Daddy, no. And I was like, all right. So I was like, what do you want instead? And she's like, the colors. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now I look at the buckets and I see like, okay, what's the one with all the colors in it? And they said, it's Hello Lucky. And I was like, great. Because that's honestly what I thought she would pick, because she kept on wanting birthday cake ice cream, which is pretty much similar to this Hello Lucky ice cream, which is cereal milk ice cream with like Lucky Charms or something in it. Very colorful. And she had like a bite, maybe two, and was done. And I remember her sitting there, and it was just like, she just did not look like she was having fun. So I was like, "Are you all right? Did you like it? Is it good?" And she's just like, "Yeah." And I'm just like, "Okay, you're in a faraway place, aren't you? Mentally, you're in another land." But ultimately, I think like she viewed it as a success. It's like, all right, hey, we drove here, we didn't get in an accident, we were able to find a parking spot, we got in, they didn't turn us away, we placed our order, we paid for our order. Mission accomplished. Like that was what's going through her head. She's like, the ice cream, like enjoying the ice cream was just a cherry on top. It's the icing on the cake. So yeah. Would I recommend it? Hell yeah. Very good. Very creative. I just want to destroy. There was like the right side of the menu was all like the deluxe premiere type creations that were just out of control, like $10 or higher. And I was like, yep, to all those. There were like 4 of them. One was like a Ron Burgundy. And I was just like, yeah, dude. I'm all for that. I gotta pull it up. You have to understand. Let's see if they got their menu up. Of course not. Yeah, they just have pictures of the menu. How they don't have their actual menu online is banana land, but what are you going to do? Is it here? Is it here? There it is. Collabos, it's called. So they have the brownie sundae, peanuts optional, pretty standard stuff. It's $10, but I imagine it's just delightful. And the Ron Burgundy chocolate chip blondie. Ooh, when's the last time you had one of those? Vanilla ice cream, butterscotch ganache, mahogany candied walnuts, fresh whipped cream, and topped with butterscotch chips. Hell yeah. The Big Papa, also $10. Warm Biggie, chocolate chip cookie, fudge brownie, vanilla soft serve, strawberry topping, whipped cream, and mini chocolate chips. Oh my God. Big old cookie ice cream sandwich, pie a la mode. Outstanding stuff. So yeah, I can't recommend it high enough. Melba. The line moved very quickly. We were in and out, and all was well. I let her sleep in my bed that night. It was Friday night. Usually it's reserved for Saturday night. I know. But I was like, let's make a deal. Huh? You sleep in the bed tonight. That's it. That's your one time for the week. You can't do it Saturday or Sunday night. And Saturday night, she was okay with it. And Sunday night, she just, oh boy. Yeah, that was rough. That was just like, she laid it on pretty thick, where it's like, I love you. Good night, daddy. It's like, all right. I mean, what? You're not in a cage. Like you're in your Paw Patrol bed. You got your sound machine. You got your cool, like green overhead lights that show you dinosaurs. What more could you ask for? Like, I don't know that you need my hot, sweaty, stinky body rolling over and suffocating you in the night. Like, is that what you want night after night? Like, you'll thank me later. But the night she slept in my bed, we started to watch Pneumonia on Netflix. It's like a new animated movie, which I thought was for children, but it turns out it's PG, parental guidance. And like, I know crazy shit happened in the 80s where like there were some PG movies that probably shouldn't have been PG, and that's where we got the PG-13 rating. I think PG is now at the point where it's like maybe we need to like even divide that up, because I don't know, I've always thought of PG as like, oh, parental guidance, meaning like, well, this isn't real, this is just a movie. Like that's the extent of my parental guidance. But in the first opening scene, it has Riz Ahmed, who is in the Night Of, I believe, on HBO limited series that was similar to Serial, that podcast about the Arab Muslim teenager who was accused of murdering his girlfriend at a Maryland high school. And he was also in a Star Wars movie, Sound of Metal, a bunch of stuff. Really good actor. I like him a lot. He voices one of the main Knight, the Knight, Knight, Knight. Chloe Grace Moretz is also voices the other main character, the other protagonist, who they kind of team up like Odd Couple style, buddy cop type thing, and fight off monsters. And I was like, I'm pretty excited about it. And the movie opens. It's got Chloe Grace Moretz narrating the typical. I feel like we watched a bunch of children's movies recently, and I feel like they all open with the storybook sequence where it's like you literally open a book and they kind of walk you through all these cutout animations to help do the exposition dump. So we get through that, and I'm like, okay, I like this. It's a nice setup. It starts with the night of knighting knights or something like that, where the knights get knighted or something. I don't know. And so it's kind of like medieval times, but in the modern day type take on the medieval times. And so they cut to this Riz Ahmed character, and he's talking to this rival knight, and the rival knight then puts his hand on Riz Ahmed's hand and then snuggles with him. And it's like, oh, you guys are lovers. That's cool. I can explain that. And then like another rival knight came in, and I was like, is this gonna turn into like a what's the full-on gangbang situation? What's going on? And so no, this other rival knight is just saying, like basically shut up, your trash. And I was like, all right. I mean, I'm all for guiding my children and parental guidance, but it's Friday night. It's late. I don't want to go into all the details right now. So I just shut it off. I was just like, I'm sorry, it's not appropriate. And then she was like, oh, come on. Why not? Like, I don't even think she picked up on a lot of the other stuff, but it's just like some of the themes. It was aggressive. That's a very aggressive, like not like I understand there are a lot of setups the foundations being laid and the setups are there. And I'm assuming there are payoffs later, but like, that's a lot for me to tackle in the first 3 to 5 minutes of a movie. Like, God damn. So I was like, all right, I need to find something else that's a little more appropriate. So we turned on Captain Underpants, where literally it's about a superhero who takes off his clothes and parades around in his underwear. And somehow I deem that better than pneumonia. So maybe we'll come back to it at some point, but it's just like, I don't know. This like feels like I can explain underpants. I don't know, better than anything else. So yeah, that was Friday night. And then Saturday I set up a play date. This was the first play date I've kind of coordinated and arranged, I think. There have been other social gatherings that she's been invited to, but this was like a one-on-one play date that I set up, which I need to do more of. And it kind of definitely takes a lot of the heat and pressure off of me because, when compared to Sunday, when it's just me and her, it was like, I don't know what else I can do here. You know what I mean? Like, I think I've done so much. And I think I actually said that Sunday night when she's in the tub and she's like, I want this. And I was like, I've given you everything. I've given you everything I have. There's nothing left. Got real Sunday night. But Saturday, yeah, we went to the Giggleberry Fair, which I thought was way closer than it actually turned out to be. Because it's like, I'm in Mercer County, I'm in the Princeton area, and I'm giving away my location to potential enemies. No big deal. But you would think like, it doesn't feel like Pennsylvania is that far away. It's like just right across the river. And this turned out to be like a 40-minute drive, which it doesn't make sense because it's like 15, 20 miles away, but it's just a lot of back roads. It's a lot of like, not a lot of highway. So I was like, yeah, I mean, we got a little mini heat wave situation going on. There's also a 4-H fair going on. So I was like, I'd love to do that, but it's also like, I know that we get the kids out in this heat and they'll be like, within 5 minutes, they want to leave. So I was like, all right, indoor playground center. Sure, let's do it. So it's a 40-minute drive, kind of sucked. Get there around a little after 11. We had been there before, back when I was married and had a family. We had been there before, but my daughter was like less than 2 years old. So it was a lot of like, I mean, I have the pictures and the videos of it. And it's just like, oh, you don't know where you are. You don't know what you're doing at all, huh? Like, you're way too young to be doing this. So yeah, I've been there before. This is the second time I've been there. And didn't tell my daughter that it was a play date, which was interesting because I was like, if I tell her and she's like very vehemently opposed to it, then I feel bad canceling last minute. So I was like, I'm just not going to tell her. We're going to go there, show up, and then like, let's see how that plays out. And so, yeah, we show up and she's just like completely thrown off and immediately clings to me. And I was just like, all right, it's going to be a little bit, but eventually she'll pull out of it. And she did. But so this Giggleberry Fair, all indoors, which is interesting because you think fair, you think outdoors or like huge conference center, I guess, like the Javits. But so Giggleberry Fair, you walk in, there's a big carousel to the left. I feel like that's a staple of any fair or carnival or whatever. It's like you can't go wrong with the carousel. Although the girl so it was a dad, another dad, and his daughter. And dad, I'm a dad and my daughter, so that was a good pairing. But she like got on the one horse that doesn't go up and down. It's like, ooh. That's a really sad discovery when you sit on the horse and you're like, let's ride. And then it doesn't move. It doesn't go up and down. You're like, ah. They should have a sign or some kind of warning like, hey, doesn't move up and down. Think about that. So, but, I think the daughter handled it well. So there's the carousel. There's also Giggleberry Mountain, and this thing is legitimately a mountain. You walk in, it's an enclosure, nets around. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 levels and slides. It's like a American Ninja Warrior or something like that. Like there's just a bunch of kind of obstacle course type things, American Gladiator style for kids that you can just, yeah, 8 floors and you can lose your kids so easily. But it's like, as long as you stand by the exit, there's only one way out. Like as long as you stand by the exit and no one's screaming, things are probably all right, right? Because like for me, we started off by like following them like up the steps and down the slide. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. Like I know I'm supposed to watch my kid. I have to legally watch them according to this sign. But at the same time, like I can't follow her through all this shit. What? So I'm just going to man up, post up by the exit, and I'll be all right. Problem with that is we were right by where these friggin' huge air compressed guns are, where it's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, like vacuum type things with a center fountain that like you put all these balls in and like every 5-10 minutes, whatever, that blows the balls out the top and it rains balls all over your kid's face. No big deal. And then on the second, third level or something, they have these guns, air compressed guns where you can put the balls in and then shoot them down at people. So we were getting pelted by kids nonstop. It's like there are all these other parents. Why are we getting pelted? What's going on here? But the noise, dude. I have tinnitus. And so a very low level volume noise it treats me right. It lets me know, hey, you're not going that insane. Because like when there's no noise and it's just me in silence, I just that. So like a low level hum is nice. It takes my focus off the fact that my hearing has gone to shit. Well, this room was not doing me any favors because this fucking fountain, the guns, everything was making just like just so loud. And I just probably blew out your eardrums, and I apologize. But I gotta let you know what I was feeling. Put you in my shoes. That shit sucked. Like in trying to yell like small talk to this other dad, like, so where do you work? That sucks. Yeah, I'm divorced. Like, it's just like, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, while the Giggleberry Mountain, like, is perfect for just letting your kids run wild and just like, hey, just get it all out of your system. I need you to sleep tonight for a long time. So just get it all out. Go balls wall for me one time. Thank you. This sound was literally driving us insane. I'm now for sure 50% more deaf. I didn't think that was possible, but yeah, I'm even more hard of hearing now. They have got to figure that out because that is just and I know it's air compression. It's like maybe there's only so much you can do to silence that or muffle it. But shit, man, throw some mufflers on those bitches. Woo. On top of the fact that they have the like, can we dial back the volume on the PA speaker? The speakers, when they make an announcement over the speakers, it was just, oh, I understand you need someone's attention. And that's important. There could be a missing kid. There could be like, hey, the party's starting. The pizza's being served. You want a slice? Get your cheeks down here to this area. I get it. You don't have to blast it. Like, I don't think there was any music. So like, what are you talking? And there wasn't, and like, the people are not loud. The arcade, there is an arcade, and that can get a little loud, but it's not dominating. Like, why are we shouting into a speaker system that is so maxed out? I think they had it on 11. There's no way you could get any higher with the volume there. So it's just like, I need Andy's party to go get pizza. It's just like, okay. And again, I apologize for blowing out your dang ears, but I need you to sympathize with me on this. So yeah, Giggleberry Mountain, there are some pros, there are some cons. You will get annihilated with soft Nerf balls by children who have a death wish. And you will lose your kid 100% in that mountain because it goes all the way up. I mean, this ceiling is so tall. I want to say like half a football field. And so, yeah, it's Giggleberry Mountain. And it's always funny. Like, I know Sebastian Maniscalco has a whole bit about like grown adults, you know, when you have to go into a house where they ask you to take off your shoes. Like, there's a whole bit about that and how like weird and uncomfortable it feels. Well, you have to do that when you go into Giggleberry Mountain. You have to take off your shoes. And I was just like, all right, my feet are so pungent, dude. I don't think anyone needs to smell these. And then to look at them on top of that, and then for people to realize, oh, those are what your feet look like. And oh, you wore those socks today. So, yeah. But I think most of our time was spent at the arcade. And, you know, I love games. And I probably have a slight addiction to video games. And that's probably why I had to like cool off for a while. And I know I talked about this last episode, but like, yeah, there is some worry when it comes to games because like, I know that both of them it is crack cocaine. Yeah, I get it because they were addicted to it and they just want to play a game over and over and over. And it's just like, you want to make money in this economy? Open a friggin' arcade, dude. I mean, like, you know, it's just very quickly you lose. And this whole weekend was just like, how quickly can you lose all your money? It's like so easy, all for the sake of your child just having somewhat of a good time and not hating you for the rest of their lives because you didn't do nothing. So, yeah, the arcade was the best, in my honest opinion. And there was a bit of contentious competition going on between the two girls. You know, I win. And I was like, well, you were in dead last and you were in next to dead last. So I guess, I don't know, you guys figure it out. So there was a bit of that going on. But I found myself, you know, I was like, I think I spent just as much money on me than I did her in terms of playing arcade games. So yeah, damn, arcades are so much fun, but it's like you lose your money so quickly. Like they give you 10 as part of this all access pass or whatever the hell I got. I don't even know the math on it. It's like, well, her trying to explain it was tough too. Like she's probably a teen in high school, maybe in college. And like, I'm like, so what if I want her to do everything, but like, do I need to buy a ticket for everything if I'm not going to do everything? You know, and she's like trying to explain. I'm like, all right, I guess that sounds good. And you get like a $10 card for the arcade. And we went through that in maybe 10 minutes, maybe less. So I had to re-up another $20. So it's like $30 on arcade games. And then I'm worried about buying a Nintendo Switch. It's like, you know, man, it just, ooh. But she loved the motorcycle game where like they ride motorcycles, and they have a motorcycle game at, I think it was like Sky Zone in Hamilton. And she friggin' loves that. And I'm like, is she gonna be like, what? Is she gonna like, is she really gonna, whoa, is she gonna ride that motorcycle? She's gonna become part of a motorcycle club. She's gonna own a Kawasaki crotch rocket. And like, is that her future? So, yeah, my mind, why would it go there? It just fucking immediately sees how much she's enjoying it and is like launches years into the future. And it's just like, okay, so that's going to be her life. And I have to accept it. Air hockey, a lot of air hockey going on, which was great. Skee ball, always good. She started off real hot, and it's kind of tough too. Cause when the other daughter, the other kid, her play date is like struggling hard. It's like, you're also trying to not to like encourage the competition to a certain degree. You're like, all right, we're all winners. We're all winners. Cause you don't want to turn your kid into an a-hole. But like they are super into competition at this point where it's like, literally every time we park outside the apartment, she's racing me to the front door and like, I win the big trophy. I win the gold trophy. You don't win anything. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm carrying 18,000 things. What are you carrying? So yeah, super competitive. But ultimately a good time, but you have to wonder like, well, they're 4, like, is this arcade game, like, what am I, like, ice cream and cookies are bad for your brain. Video games bad for your brain too. Like, it's all bad. Everything's bad. But I also don't want her to be like a shut-in recluse where it's like wrapped in bubble packing paper, So, and then they wanted to go in the toddler room where it's like literally a bunch, what my daughter was, the first time we took her was like, they're 1 and 2 years old. And I'm like, you guys big girls or what? That's like my go-to now. It's like, oh, I thought you were a big girl. Oh, you must not be a big girl. It's like, it's like the equivalent of Biff Tannen in Back to the Future 3 being like, what are you, chicken? And then Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly is just like, no one calls me a chicken. It's like I thought you were a big girl. And it's just this like reverberates in their brains like big girl, big girl, big girl. And they're like, yeah, we don't need a toddler room. Toddler room's for babies. I thought we were going to be there for like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. Cause that's what the average time spent there, according to Googs, is hour and a half. So I was like, hour and a half seems reasonable. If we're there for, the rule is if it takes 40 minutes to get there, 40 minutes back, that 80 minutes of travel time, you at least want to be there for longer to the equivalent of the travel time or more. So it's like, all right, hour 20. So hour and a half will be good. If we do 2 hours, that's also good. I mean, we were there until like 3:00. We were there for 4+ hours, almost 5. So it was a good run. We ended up getting lunch there and decent lunch. I think I got the chicken salad wrap. It was like good size. Of course, chicken salad can always be a little dicey, but I was trying to explain to my daughter that like chicken tenders are just like long chicken nuggets essentially. And she did not eat any of her chicken tenders. She also loves to order fries, even though she never eats them. It's just like nice. It's just nice to know that you can get them, I guess, And then the next day, Sunday, was jam packed where I painted her nails for the first time, nail polish, glittery nail polish, which is clear and there's not enough glitter. Like I applied it and I was like, okay, there's one little speck of glitter on each nail. Did I nail it? Like nailed it? I don't know. Is this a success? You seem happy. So I guess that's all we need, but I would expect a lot more glitter out of this glitter nail polish. And then we did unicorn slime. If you're a parent, do yourself a favor and look into that. It is super messy, and I look like I just came out of a bender at a strip club. It's just glitter all over my hands and of course my pants because I apparently touched my pants lower body a lot, and my shirt, it's just everywhere. So yeah, trying to make the unicorn slime for me, and I guess most of these like do-it-yourself craft kits, I've talked about this before. I still cannot rein in my expectations because I see the picture and I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. And I'm like, I think I could do that. And then you follow the instructions to a fucking T, and it looks absolutely nothing like the picture. God damn it. And it's just such a disappointment, especially for the kid. Because it's like, as an adult, you think I would be better at like realizing like, okay, it's probably not going to look like that. That is honestly from a professional stylized shoot where they had professionals doing all that stuff. And it probably isn't even in the stuff that they give you and mix. They probably had someone create it in a friggin' lab. But yet I can't, I just forget that. And yeah, it was, they give you these little balls for the one that she picked, like these little pearly type things, like in the mica powder that's supposed to make it look pearly, and I forget what the word is, has scent at the end of it. Not translucent, but pearlescent, something like that. So this is supposed to be shiny and glittery. And like, of course, the pearls don't go in the slime. There's like not enough slime. It's falling apart. I don't know. It's like, you know, I'm trying. I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is a lot. So after the unicorn slime and failing at that, we did the koala crate, which is like kind of arts and crafts. There's 3 little mini projects that you can do, all according to a theme. This theme was like medieval times, where you have like a castle, a dragon wagon, and a catapult. And I was like, whoa, this catapult is like fairly easy to put together. And it doesn't pult, doesn't cat. Like it doesn't traject anything. Like you pull it back, you put the pom-pom in the thing, and you pull it back, and you fire away, and it just kind of like dribbles out, which you know, hey fellas, we've all been there, right? It just seems like, so put that all together. And my plan was like, okay, the weather's a little bit better today. It's not like you're in a friggin' sauna. So we went to the 4-H fair. Little did I know, the 4-H fair, which honestly looks like it's on the next town over, half an hour to get to. So by the time we got there, you know, we left the house around 2. We got there around like 2:30, almost 3 o'clock. And it was like, I look at the agenda, you know, because they have like the signs is free, and it's on a farm. And I thought, oh, we're going to pet animals. We're going to play games. It's going to be so cool. You know, it took half an hour to get there, hour round trip. So if we stay for 2 hours, that's worth it. And we get there, and like, I look at the agenda, and it's literally like the next up on the schedule is closing ceremony. So I'm like, oh shit, they're closing at 4. And of course we go around, and it's not like the 4th of July fair carnival we went to at Mercer County Park last year, where you could like actually play a lot of games. I don't even know if you could pet animals. Yeah, you could pet animals there. There were a lot of like chickens in cages here. And there was like a bunny, and we had to wait for this old woman to stop petting the bunny. It's like, hey, lady, like, you've felt a bunny before. Come on, you've felt a bunny before. Scooch, skedaddle. And so she got to pet it for like a hot second. She's like, Daddy, you should pet it. So I'm petting it. And then the woman on the mic is like, sir, like into the mic for all to hear. Sir, can you please scooch over? And I'm like standing there with my hand, my paw, my mitt, my hairy friggin' hand on this bunny. Everyone's looking at me like, ew, why is he petting that bunny? Like, okay, let's go. So we got out of there, and she just was really into petting she wanted to pet the animals. And I'm like, I know, but like, I don't know, like, goats are tough. You know, you reach out to pet a goat and they'd like chomp your finger off. Like, that's a thing, right? So I was like, I don't know if we can pet these goats. Like, goats are kind of wild cards, aren't they? So I think she was bummed about that. And then we did a walk towards the farm. There are no games. So she was immediately pissed about that. Like, wait, there's no games? Like, I want games. You said there would be games. I'm like, yeah. I thought wrong. So we walk towards like the barn area, the barns. I get to see some sheep. And then we go into the one stable or barn area. And then there's this massive cow, dude. I'm talking about, I mean, I don't hang out with cows a lot. I know people I went to college with would beg to differ, but I didn't find moo. Find moo. So stupid. But no, this was I don't know, are cows usually that big? This cow felt huge, dude. Its name was Blizzard, and all white. And so the lady there who's dressed all in like old school 1800s garb, but had like a nose ring. I was like, oh, you almost nailed the part, but the nose ring, I can't. It really is hard to suspend my disbelief right there. But she'd just been done milking the cow, and she pulls out the pail or the bucket, and it's full to the brim. This is a huge ass bucket. And it just flies all in the milk. And she's like, yeah, as you notice, there's a lot of stuff in here, but we're going to run it through this filter. And my daughter immediately tuned out, was like, oh yeah, let's just keep going. And we walked through the stables where all the horses were, and these horses were gigantic. I don't know why I think the cows and horses are smaller than they really are. These like horses, their butts were higher than my head. I'm like barely 6 feet tall. These butts were like eye level, maybe almost a little bit taller. And so we just saw a lot of horses' asses. And then we also saw the posterior of these horses. Ooh, dad joke, motherfucker. So, yeah, and it was just a ton of poop, so much poop. The smell, I don't know how these people do it. I don't know how farmers do it and put up with that smell. I guess you would get used to it after a while, right? And there was one guy there that was like talking to some people, and I was like, wow, you are either full on committed to this role, like what do they call it? Role playing, like commitment to the role, or you are a time traveler and you have literally time traveled from the 1800s to here. And either way, I'm impressed. Like, picture like old school farmer with the hat, straw hat, kind of like an older guy, a little bit slumped, hunched or whatever, speaking with a drawl. We're in central New Jersey, by the way, with a drawl as slow as possible. That was this guy, and he crushed it. And I was like, man, I would love if my daughter weren't yanking my arm out of the socket, I would definitely be here for this all day, because it's just fascinating that in the year 2023 of our Lord, that this person exists and is, the way he is. But yeah, it's a lot of poop, so much poop. And so we did not last long in that row, the death row of horses. And then we walked out, and we ended up walking all the way around the premises, back towards, like, we're passing by campers. Apparently there's a section where you can just pitch a tent, and but then you can also like put up a tent. Get in it, dad joke, motherfucker. So she had a million questions about that, like, who are those people, what are they doing, why are they there? And I'm just like, I'm and it's so loud that they can hear, and I'm just like, they're just hanging, back, just like no filter, not a care in the world. So we made our way back around. She did a pony ride, which was nice. It was like $9 for a pony ride that lasted a minute. I think that's a pretty good racket if you can get into it. $9 for a pony ride that lasts a minute. And she loved that. She ate it up. How could she not, right? So it's just basically 2 laps around this like little circular enclosure. So she liked that. And then like, of all the things, right, that she was interested in, the two that she liked the most were two of the things that are just like, you would never in a million years think that, oh, the kids would love that. So there was like that same woman who shamed me on the mic, who was like, can you scoosh, you grown man petting a bunny? So they did like a closing ceremony with awards and stuff where they recognized all these people. And my daughter was like so into it. Like, it's literally just this MC calling out people's names and be like, in the GOAT category, we have Shelley Winters. And it's just like, and then this very middle school woman, they were all middle school girls looking, in that awkward phase that we're all familiar with, glasses, braces, what have you, acne, that are accepting these awards or prizes or whatever. And so they were going through that. And my daughter was like, I want that. I want this. She was like, what is this? And I kind of explained it to her, like, oh, they're like giving out prizes and awards for all the hard work that these people have done. And she's like, I want to do this. And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess representation matters. It's like, you see women succeeding, you want to be a successful woman. More of that, please. But I was like, this is so like, we only have so much time at this farm before they shut down and kick us out. Like, I don't know if we want to just be watching people's names getting announced. So bounced from there and got her some food, hot dog, Doritos, and water, which came out to be like $9. And I was just like, oh, now this is what I'm talking about. You understand my pain trying to live this life in this friggin' expensive area. And then she loved the hay bales of hay in the form of a maze, but not tall enough where you can't see anything. It's like, and basically all the kids were not going through the actual maze part. They're just climbing on the walls because the walls are literally like 2 feet, 3 feet off the ground. So she was doing that. And then she decided that she wanted to play with a baby, pretty much like a 1-year-old. And so the parents are like kind of cautious because it's like, this is a baby that doesn't like, they're so fragile and delicate, and you are jumping around like a friggin' spider monkey. So like, can you cool it a little bit? And I think they were kind of looking to me to be like, can you like de-escalate the situation? Like, your daughter's gonna murder our baby. Like, I think I know her better than you, so I think she doesn't have that in her, that killer instinct, but she's just really outgoing. And the dad was like, so is that your daughter? And I was like, yeah, she's really outgoing. And he was like, yeah, that's our baby. She's 1. As if to say, like, hey, translation, get your goddamn offspring away from our offspring. So I don't know if it's probably just me in my head, but it was like tension at the wazoo. So yeah, we ended up being there for 2 hours. So I think it was worth it. We did the tractor trailer. We didn't do the horse pulled trailer. She did get to pet the 2 horses. Here's what I don't understand about people that are petting. Like, you gotta have awareness. Where's your awareness level at? What's your Madden rating for awareness that you can't sense that, like, you've looked over and you see me with a 4-year-old who probably I don't think she's ever pet a horse before. And like, you are 12, 13, 14. Like, how about you give it a couple strokes and move it along. So that was waiting for that was kind of, but we missed out. Like, we missed out on the horse. Like, when we went to the horse drawn trailer ride, whatever, it was like, we just missed the last one. Like, the cutoff just happened and we just watched them go away. But then they substitute the horse with a tractor, and we were able to catch the very last tractor pulled ride. And it was like, we literally just did the same gigantic circle that we did on foot. So it's like, I don't know that this is, do you like this? Is this cool? I don't know. So overall, I mean, considering how it got off to a really rocky start, I think it ultimately was a win. And then we came back here and we went to the pool. We have not been to the pool a lot this year, but so we get to the pool, and timing is definitely one of my strengths. We get to the pool, and there's a big pickup truck, and there's 2 guys, and they're treating it. they're just dumping like all these chemicals and powders and whatnot into the pool, and they're brushing and they're brushing. And this teenager who is like, for sure awkward. And I get it. I was there. I used to be that. And I still am. Was like, yeah, it's gonna be 10 minutes. And I'm like, all right, 10 minutes. Yeah, we can deal with that. I think I can contain and control my child for 10 minutes, right? And then 10 minutes turn into 20 minutes, 20 minutes turn into 30 minutes. And like other people are showing up and they have kids and they want to go in. And this kid is just like losing it because he's trying to call his boss because he's like, the pool did not look right. I remember we were walking up and I'm looking at the pool and it just looks dirty. And I'm just like, is the pool even open? Like, did they have a major accident? Is there like the filtration system not working? Because this looks awful. So we get in and I'm like, oh, okay, they're treating it. So, they'll treat it and then it'll clear up and it'll look better. And there's like another dad who is on the other opposite end of the pool comes over to me and is like, have you ever seen it like this? And I was just like, no, I have not. Like, this is shady. This is rough. This is sketchy. So, the kid's freaking out because he's like, is this supposed to happen? I don't think this is normal. Like, I don't think he was supposed to be. He's like, I'm not even supposed to be working today. Like Clerks. He's just like, I'm covering for my friend. I'm not even a lifeguard. So he just kept on walking around the pool, and then he would call his boss every 2 seconds, and you could hear like it go to voicemail. Like, that boss is not picking up. He is out somewhere getting lit on a Sunday fun day. And so eventually he was like, yeah, I guess you can go in. So I pop on the goggles, I hop in, and it's like I go underwater. I can't see more than a foot in front of my face. It's like I'm swimming in a lake, like a aqua lake, not like a dark lake, but just like I should be able to see to the wall, to the floor. Like I can hear everything that's going around me. I can't see shit. So that was a bit concerning. I was fully expecting to come out of that pool and it's like, well, now we do have scabies and the plague, but there's a cure. So yeah, that kind of stunk. And then seeing my daughter trying to play with everybody else in the pool except me and getting politely ignored, just like neglected and ignored. Like none of these kids want any piece of you. That dad does not want any piece of you. I'm here though. I know it's not great, but I am an option. I am offering my services. And she just was not having it. She just kept on yelling, she kept on asking everyone to play with their toys. She's like, why don't we have pool toys? And I was like, we do, but I just didn't bring them. I can't find them. It's just a story. It's just like literally, her opinion of me must not be great at this point. Cause it's like, well, why haven't you done this? Why is the apartment like this? Why is this? And it's just like, well, cause daddy stinks. Like that's just the bottom line there. Daddy stinks. So she would go up to the other people and be like, can I play with you? Can I play with your toys? And I was like, can I play with you? Okay, I get it. But can I play with, can I have that? Can I play with your toys? When they just started playing with it, like, let's reel it in. And then it got to the point where she was able to get the ball. There was like a little miniature ball, like soccer ball or something like that. And people were throwing it around. She got her hands on it and she started just yelling catch at the dad who wasn't looking at her and throwing it at him. And I'm like, we gotta go. We gotta go. This is too much. So yeah, I mean, she's kind of bummed about that, but it's like, dude, we can't be having that. And plus it's like 7:30. You need to start getting ready for bed anyway. So, and then that night I was laying in bed and I had taken my edible, so I can like try and, go to sleep and not have all the thoughts dominate my brain. And I felt something, I put my fan on, my giant fan, because the AC doesn't really work back here. Luxury, right? Definition of luxury. When the AC doesn't reach your room. Cool. And arguably the most important room in the friggin' building, the apartment. So I usually put on the giant fan. And so if you take an edible and then you put on the fan's blowing on you, you kind of, I don't know, maybe you feel like there are bugs crawling all over you. But then you kind of get used to it. Like, it's just the wind blowing my hairs on my arms and my friggin' face and everywhere else. So, but then, so I popped an edible. I'm watching Twisted Metal, the new series on Peacock. Pretty good. And then it's like, okay, this is more than just like the hairs on my face blowing in the wind. This feels like something else. And then all of a sudden I see like out of the bottom of my eye, like something big crawling on my face. And I kind of try and wipe it away. It like falls near my collarbone. And then I think it friggin' bites me. And then I swat it off. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And so I'm looking and there's like this, it looks like a giant ant is just like floundering and flopping around on the bed. And I kind of just brush it off and I'm like, like I probably should have killed it, I guess, or transported it out of the, escort it from the building, if you will. And I didn't. So now it's like, oh, well, that thing's still alive and it's probably pissed and it's probably spreading the word back of the crib to all his homies. Like, hey, there's this like dickhead who tried to hit me. And then like he started beating on me. And like I say we like get the crew together. We're going to go back and fuck this dude up. So I had that going through my friggin' noggin for the rest of the night. Like this is going to be a gang of ants that are going to take me out. And I go to, brush my teeth and do mouthwash. And I look in the mirror and it's like they're friggin' fang marks. Like what the hell just bit me? And Google, no help whatsoever. It's just like, it could be a tarantula or it could be a common fly gnat. It's just like, fire ants. You will need to consult the doctor immediately. It's like, all right, I guess I don't feel anything, but it's like, it'll take 20 minutes for you to feel anything. And then you'll be in the most excruciating pain of your life. And I'm like, this is a fun 20 minutes. Like, I can't wait for this to happen. But I do have a few drinks in me and I am edibled up, so maybe it won't be as bad. Yeah, I had a whole slew of night terrors that night. Yeah, but that's life. All right, let's talk about the Metros, the New York Mets. Whew. Some would say the season's over. I'm not one of those. I think that there's plenty of season left. But yeah, I mean, and for all intents and purposes, it feels like a lot of the moves that we made at the trade deadline would indicate that, yeah, season over. Personally, I'm going to keep watching until we are officially eliminated from the playoffs, because I know stranger things have happened. Like crazy stuff has happened in the past, and even though we've dealt of healthy amounts of our roster and most of our, exceptional talent, Justin Bieber, never say never, dude. So my last episode on the Mets was June 19th. It's been a while. And June was not a good month for the Mets. It historically has never been a good month for the Mets, but this one was especially painful. 7-19 in June. Whoa. 4.45 ERA while scoring 4.42 runs per game. That alone would indicate that you should probably be hovering around, I don't know why I would say this, but a 500 record in June. Instead, we were 7-19. 13 blown leads. 13. It feels like a record. Feels like, I don't know that can be topped. And then we entered July and it was like the entire team turned the page and was just completely forgot about June and started off with a nice 6-game winning streak in July. And you started to think, okay, Alvarez looks like the real deal. He's continuing to mash. This wasn't a flash in the pan. And we're getting quality starts and we're beating teams that we should or teams that we've struggled with in the past. We just look like a better team, a different team, and it was not enough. It was not enough to convince the Mets organization to do much at the trade deadline, and it is such a fine line when it comes to the trade deadline. When you think about, well, because you look at the Padres, and the Padres were not sellers at the deadline. They were effectively buyers, and the Padres are pretty much in the same boat that we are. Big time payroll, major expectations, but underperforming under 500 and like not really that close to competing for the wild card spot. We're 6.5 games back of the wild card spot, which doesn't seem like a lot. Like it just takes like a week or two of winning and you're right back in the thick of things. But I think the fact that we were under 500 by a decent amount at the trade deadline was enough for the organization to say, yeah, let's move on. I think we've given them enough runway now where, there are 57 games left in the season. We're 5 games under 500. Do we see it getting any better? I'm sure there were a bunch of stats nerds like myself that ran the numbers, that ran the probabilities, that saw, Baseball Reference has a 90% confidence that, we'll top out at like low 80s wins, like not even mid to high 80s in terms of wins. And that to me is not good enough for a wild card spot unless hell breaks loose, which I'm not ruling that out, but it's the odds. The odds are no, we're probably not going to make the playoffs. So 57 games left. If we played 600 ball, right? Because that's initially what we thought we had to do to get back in the playoff race, a la the Braves and the Phillies and Nationals of yesteryear, of recent memory, playing way better in the second half than they did in the first half, 600 ball or better. So if we play just 600, it means we're winning 6 out of 10 games. We'd have 34 wins over the rest of the season. That would put us at 84 and 78. We're 6 games above 500 at that point, but I don't know that that's good enough for a wild card for me. And it's 86 wins was what I was aiming for and what I was hoping for in the second half. And that's just 2 games off from what the ceiling is at 84 and 78, really. And it's just it's a tall order. And was there enough that gave you confidence that they were going to turn around? It's the National Series was nice. We won 3 of 4, but goddamn, like it took us coming from behind in a game that looked like lost, where we won 2-1. Vogelback gets the game tying, run, and like that felt like that was a loss, and like the wins even feel like losses. Like the Nats are not a great team, and we should have swept them when we win 3 or 4, and we almost lost 2 of 4. So there was just not enough there to make anyone feel like we had a good shot at turning things around. So, it's understandable. I mean, our playoff chances, according to Fangraphs, as of July 16th. So this is, 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were 43 and 50. So we're 7 games below 500. We had an 11% chance of making the playoffs. I looked at the playoff odds earlier today. This is before the Royals game 1 of the Royals series. 4.5% to make the postseason, 0.1% to win the World Series. Now, hey, I'm a sucker for underdog stories. I love come from behinds. I love improbables. I love all that shit. I love it. But when you have those numbers thrown at you and you weren't in, like, you're not the Cubs. I think the Cubs had a really amazing turnaround of late, enough to give them hope and to think that they can make a push and get in and make some waves. We didn't have that push. We had the beginnings of a push. We had a 6-game winning streak that made you think, okay, if we continue on this road and we're able to capitalize and do some things, then, you can reinvigorate your hopes and dreams and whatnot. But they didn't. They look shitty. They split against the Yankees. They did not look good against the Red Sox. There wasn't enough there to make you think that, okay, we got a shot. And so they ended up selling. But before we get into the trade deadline and all the moves there are, this is an article from The Athletic, 5 Mets losses that may have changed the narrative had they gone the other way, right? So these are 5 games in which they're losses, but if they were wins, We were 50-55 entering game 1 of the Royal Series. You win those 5 games, you're 55-50. You're in the thick of the wild card race. Let's take a quick little gander at the wild card race. Okay, let's do it. So this is AL, NL, right? This looks outdated. What the fuck is this? This is from July 7th. What are we doing? Jeez Louise, dude. Why that would be the top results? Come on, guys. Get your shit together. All right, so 55-50. We are right about where the Marlins are and the Diamondbacks, who are just half a game and a game out of the wild card race. Even if we were at 500, like the Cubs are at 53-53, 4 games of the wild card. And I know it's, like I said, it's such a fine line. The Cubs are only like 2.5 games ahead of us in the wild card standings. They're buying, we're selling. The Padres, slightly better record than us at 52-55. They're 1 game ahead of us in the wild card. They're buyers. They're buying, they're not selling. So it's tricky. I think either way, the fans are going to be ridiculed. Mets fans are going to be ridiculed, and we're going to get skewered either way. If we were buyers, people would have been like, "Oh, you guys are suckers! Like you're buying in when you haven't been able to do anything," and like da 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 da. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But 55-50. That's what we're looking at. So if these are the 5 Mets losses that if they were wins, who knows? We would be in the thick of things. First one is from April 23rd. This is from that one of the first long West Coast trips. It was when we were playing at San Francisco. We had over the first 10 games, we were 7-3, which gave a lot of people hope. And because anytime you go on a West Coast trip, those things can be kind of brutal, right? They take a toll. And I think a lot of us were just hoping to go 500. So to go 7-3, huge. And then we lost the last 2 games, including this one against the Giants. Tyler McGill, I think this was largely ineffective for 4 innings. This is when we first kind of got tuned into the fact that he stinks on the road, and then eventually he was not great at home. Alternatively, Drew Smith surrendered the double to Mike Yastrzemski in the 8th that allowed the go-ahead run. And Buck did not use Ottavino or Robertson in that 4-game series. So that was kind of when people started to take notice and be like, whoa, is Buck slipping? Is Buck not the same old Buck? Is Buck the issue? Buck's not the issue. I would blame Billy Epler over Buck Showalter to be H. So then we had to play we played the Sunday night baseball game and then lose that. We go travel cross country. Get in late, and then we lose twice the Nationals, in which we scored 1 run. I think that's when, I guess you could say that's when there were cracks in the foundation, right? That's when the cracks started to appear and to show. Next big loss, May 4th against the Tigers, we lose 2-0. This was Justin Verlander's Mets debut, and he gives up 2 ding-dongs in the first inning, back-to-back home runs. First inning has been a major bugaboo for us. That was a huge key to our success, and you wouldn't think so, right? It's just an inning, You always want to get off to a hot start, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? But the 2022 Mets, we mentioned this before, they score first. And when they score first, they win. And that has not been the case this year. We've been outscored 65-26 in the first inning of games. This was as of, I don't know when, 2 weeks ago, last week. And Verlander had a 6 ERA in the first inning. 8 earned runs in 12 innings due to 5 home runs and only 7 strikeouts against 57 batters. I mean, if we win even one of those games, that's a bad team. Detroit's a bad team. And I think that's another difference between this year and last year is like we used to eat up bad teams last year. You beat the teams you should. And we just didn't do that through the first half of the season. And it cost us. It was our 9th loss in 11 games as of that point. And that's when people really started to doom and gloom. Little did they know. I think myself included, I was like, this has to be rock bottom. No. And no, there's, rock bottom. I don't think there is a rock bottom. I think it's just a limitless black hole, never ending black hole. Anyway, next one is June 8th. This is the third Mets loss that if we won, I think things might have turned out different, maybe. This was the Braves series where we had leads. And this is part of the 13 blown leads in June. We had leads and we blew them all. Every game. For the first time in franchise history, the Mets lost 3 straight games after leading each by 3 or more runs. Robertson had to negotiate the ninth with a 1-run lead, ended up allowing a tying home run to Orlando Arcia, and then Razel Iglesias went yard off Tommy Hunter in the 10th. That was painful, I would say that, but given what had happened prior to that, not too shocking or surprising. It was just like, I mean, as soon as I said it before, as soon as Tommy Hunter entered that game, you're like, game over. And then the very next day, we lost by a touchdown to the Pirates, 14-7. Tyler McGill stunk pretty bad. 9 runs, 7 earned, and 3 2/3. His game score of 11 was the worst by a Mets starter in 2023. I think I forget when he got sent down to the minors, but he has not been even average in the minors AAA. And now that we've sold off all our arms, he has to come up and pitch. So yeah, he needs to, like, I don't know, do some smelling salts, or I don't know. Wake up, dude. Wake up. The Mets have had 21 games in which their starter has permitted 5 or more runs, 18 of those in 5 innings or less. In those games, New York is 219. Yeah. Hard when you're constantly in a hole to start to dig out of that hole. You know, we've talked about before, like it's a shit ton of pressure on your offense to produce, to catch up. And I think it's like water on a rock, my man. It wears you down. Like, fuck, we're down 5-0 again in the third. Like, all right, let's claw our way back. Like, it just, as an offense, as hitters, I think the first couple times you're like, all right, hey, let's pick up our pitcher. But the 21st time it happens, you're like, I mean, there's so many other teams, and I really would like a World Series ring. So yeah, that was especially brutal. And then June 25th, against a team that we've had success against recently, not that it matters, but the Phillies, we lose 7-6. We were 6 outs away from a pretty nice series victory. And then Josh Walker loads the bases with nobody out in the 8th, up 3, and then Jeff Brigham, couldn't overcome a bad Brett Beatty error and eventually hit consecutive batters to force them to tying and going ahead runs. It's like, of all the ways to lose, hitting back-to-back batters. Wow. So those are the 5 losses that, who knows if we win those, we do know. We go 55-50. We're not sellers at the deadline. And maybe we're buyers. We pick up a piece or two that can help us with either quality starts or out of the bullpen to relieve all the pressure on Ottavino, Raley, and Robertson. And instead, nope. Hey, y'all, fire sale. So let's get into it. The trades at the Major League Baseball trade deadline. I wanted to do a preview, couldn't get around to it. But for me, it was like, all right, if we're going to be sellers, let's sell. And by God, we did. Didn't sell all the parts that I thought we would. Not to make humans sound like friggin' gears in a machine, but goddamn. Just looking at the contracts. A lot of big contracts, a lot of older players, and players that, you thought would give you better performances based on the salary that they're earning for 2023. So heading into the trade deadline, I wanted to move, me personally, Vogelback, Yeah, let's move him. Brooks Raley, 35, right? He's going to be a free agent in 2026, and I think that was the reason. Well, there might have been a player option or team option for 2024, and they was going to go to arbitration 2025. But Brooks Raley, Tommy Pham, also 35. He's on a 1-year deal. He's going to be a free agent next year. I think Ottavino, to me, seemed like he should be available. He's 37. He's going to be a free agent in 2025. I think there's a team option or player option next year. Even Omar Narvaez. You kind of got your guy in Francisco Alvarez, young stud. Narvaez has been pretty much non-existent since Alvarez's rise. And so it's like, okay, well, we whiffed on a catcher again. Let's move on from him. Quintana, 34. He's got another year on his contract. I don't think you gave him a fair shake yet just because he's been out for so long. But in his starts so far, he's looked pretty decent. He's given you better starts than what we've experienced with the next guy, Carlos Cookie Carrasco, 36. He's going to be a free agent next year. And then Marte, Verlander, Scherzer. Those are all the players that I would have dangled or made available. And by God, they traded a bunch of them. If you're looking just at WAR, who are your most valuable trade chips? And this would explain the reason why a handful of these dudes that I thought would get traded were not traded, because it's just like, why would we want that player? So Lindor leads the team in WAR, followed by Nimmo, Alonso, Senga, and then you have Verlander, Scherzer, Robertson, Canna, Pham, Raley, Alvarez, McNeil, Ottavino, Butto, Perez, Leon, Lucchesi, Curtis, Garrett, Natoli, Quintana, Uceta. Yeah, and that's about it. So I think a lot of people might have thought it was a wild idea to trade Scherzer and Verlander, but whatever. So the chips started to fall with David Robertson. That was the first. I mean, obviously we traded Eduardo Escobar, but that was not really a sign that, okay, it's time. That's we're putting up the white flag. We surrender. We're selling. Robertson, our closer, who many would say should have been an all-star, has like a sub-2 ERA and is pitching out of his mind. Once we dished him, it's like, well, now we don't have a closer. We didn't have a closer to start the season. He hurt himself jumping around, celebrating a meaningless win at a meaningless classic. And so then Robertson's a closer, and then they deal Robertson. It's like, okay, I think this is the end, my only friend, the end. So we deal him to the Marlins. Interdivision, which I've never really liked. Never really got on board with. It's like I'm always a huge fan of just deal them to the other conference or league. So American League in baseball, AFC in football. So we deal them to the Marlins, who have had 6 blown saves in July alone. And I was not entirely thrilled with the return that we got. Marco Vargas, an infielder, and Ronald Hernandez, a catcher. And it's like, when we're pretty much fully stocked in the infield position, you think about Beatty, Vientos, Alonso, Lindor, McNeil to a certain extent, Mauricio, who might come up. There's another couple top 100 prospects that we have that are also infielders. It's like, we're good at infield. Like, that does not seem like a position of need. And then Ronald Hernandez, a catcher, it's like, all right, well, if the thought process is that, we're going to move on from Narvaez and we don't think Tomas Nido is your guy for backup, then I guess Hernandez makes sense. But to me, that felt like a bad return. But at the same time, Robertson's is a rental. He's 38. So it's like, you're probably not going to get a huge return from him when, who knows, he's might not even be I guess he will be the closer for the Marlins, but, not as impactful as a starter, right? So The Athletic says Robertson is the best rental closer in the non-Josh Hader category, and his 2.26 ERA across the past two seasons is among the best. They gave the Marlins a B+ and the Mets a B for this. I'd give it a B, B-, C+, that kind of region. I don't think either of these guys is really going to ever see the light of day. But maybe they could be useful in the trades down the line, where it's like you can package them for someone that actually needs those positions. I don't know. Then we have Mark Canha. Mark Canha was along with Tommy Pham, those were two guys that were gaining interest as the trade deadline approached. And, at first blush, when you look at the stat line for Mark Canha, you're like, meh, there's nothing really kind of jumping out at you. Not like Tommy Pham. Like Tommy Pham was a whole nother story, but and Canha actually lost playing time, at one point to Tommy Pham. So I would think that Pham would be easier to move than Canha, because it's like, well, didn't you just bench Canha for Pham? But he ends up getting traded to the Milwaukee Brewers for their 30th ranked prospect, Justin Jarvis, who's a 23-year-old starter, has a 4.33 ERA and 102 strikeouts and 87 1/3 innings over 17 starts between AA and AAA. Now, he was much better in AA than AAA, shocker. In AA, he had a 3.33 ERA and 14 AA starts and then since being promoted to AAA, has a 10.8 ERA. So kind of doesn't feel like he's going to be around long term. He's a Rule 5 eligible after the season, so to protect him, the Mets would have to put him on the 40-man roster. Ooh, dude. I'd say if that 10.8 ERA in AAA is just, that's sticker shock. That's tough to swallow. So it's very possible that he doesn't even make it to next season, which is unfortunate. But it's Mark Canha. What did you expect to get in return? It's like, we're just trying to build something. They're just trying to replenish the farm system and get younger, which I am fully behind, because of the luxury tax situation. We're not getting a lot of top high draft picks in the next few years. So it's important that we do try and get something through trades. And this is the opportunity to do so, right? It's long-term thinking. Short-term, it sucks. I equate it to, the analogy I make is I explain it to my daughter, my 4-year-old daughter. She was like, remember when you ripped that Band-Aid off of me, you son of a bitch? And I was like, all right. And I was like, she's like, why'd you do that? And I was like, well, the theory is that if you rip the Band-Aid off, the pain is quick and doesn't last as long, and it's more bearable than if you were to slowly rip the Band-Aid off. Slowly rip the Band-Aid off, the pain is longer lasting, it hurts more, and you probably can't get through it. But if you just rip it real quick, it's over and done with. We ripped the Band-Aid off, which I don't think a lot of previous management organizations would have done. You know what I mean? So I fully applaud this approach. I don't if the Wilpons are still the owners, they're probably oh no, Verlander and Scherzer still have a lot in the tank and da-da-da. It's just all right, dude. So very happy with the direction we're going. And we'll get into what it means for the future. But the next trade, Tommy Pham, traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks, those snakes. Tommy Pham stats this season, 79 games. He hit 268, 348 on-base percentage, 820 OPS, which led the team. He led the team in OPS plus, 15 doubles, 1 triple, 10 homers, 36 RBIs, 29 runs, and 127 WRC plus. So, yeah, the approach heading into this season and even last season was, sure, we'll sign a lot of older guys, veterans with playoff experience, World Series experience, to short-term contracts. We're probably overpaying, but the idea is that they're going to push us over the finish line. We're right there. We feel like we're right there. And this handful of veterans who are probably overpaid and maybe a little past their prime will help guide our younger players into the playoffs, through the playoffs, into the World Series, and get us that ring. And wildly off. It didn't happen. So there's something to be said. And I think that it might be a wake-up call for Steve Cohen and his organization and Billy Epler to say, hey, let's not do that. That's something the old Mets regime would do. Let's sign all these like name brand players who are like right at the decline, like the severe steep decline of their careers. You know, I'm trying to think, but the list goes on and on. Eddie Murray, Brett Saberhagen. There's just Roberto Alomar, Mo Vaughn. Like I personally love Mo Vaughn. He gave us one-ish good season, but it's like it's like we get them for one good season and then we have them for their contract goes on forever and ever. So Robinson Cano, it's just like we get these guys right when they have one more good season in them, if that, and then they fall off a cliff. So you can understand why they, at least this regime, this administration, recognizes that and is like, you know what? Let's move on. Let's turn the page. And if we have to eat money, we can because we can afford it, unlike the previous ownership. So what do we get in return from the D-backs? A 17-year-old shortstop named Jeremy Rodriguez, who was given a $1.25 million signing bonus earlier this season as an international free agent. He was ranked number 47 in the signing class, but he was the Arizona's top international free agent signing. Had a 751 OPS and 12 steals in the DSL this year. Now, when I was in high school and college, DSL meant something else. So I'm not sure what league that is. Dominican League, maybe. But I'm going to make maybe this is a hot take. Those numbers aren't great. I know that. He's 17. But I can't help but think of, when I think of this Jeremy Rodriguez, of thinking of Rafael Devers. So Sunday Night Baseball, they interviewed Rafael Devers. They spent a lot of time talking about him. He ended up hitting a home run in that game. But they showed a before and after when he signed with the Red Sox at age 16. And then when he signed his massive contract extension at the age of 26, $330 million. That's the hope, right? That's what we want, the next Rafael Devers. Is this the next Rafael Devers? Probably not. But man, would be nice because, if he comes up at 22, 23, and he does what Devers does, he can then take over from Lindor. Maybe you move Lindor to third or second. I don't know. So it's all about the future. It's all about youth. It's all about replenishing and getting younger. And it took us going through these painful moments to learn that lesson and realize that although Cohen's big on analytics, the analytics guys must have overlooked the fact that you can't have three starters in your late 30s and win. We dealt Dominic Leone, I guess, to the Angels. I don't know what we got in return. So I'm going to look that up real quick. Dominic Leone traded to the Angels. From the Mets for outfield prospect Jeremiah Jackson, the Angels' number 9 prospect. Interesting, because I would not have thought that Leone would get that kind of return. So another top prospect, a top 10 prospect from another team, which is, will it pan out? Odds are probably not, but like, you're rolling the dice here, you're making bets, and you're saying, like, if we collect enough top prospects, one of these motherfuckers, it will pan out. If 2 pan out, we're in a great position. All because we officially threw the towel in on a season that was most likely lost. Odds are. And then we get to the two big ones, Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. So Scherzer was going to earn $43.3 million this year and had a $43.3 million player option next year. He had a no trade clause that he had to waive in order for this deal with the Rangers to go through. In his less than 2 seasons with the Mets, he had 42 starts, 20 wins, 9 losses, and a 3.02 ERA. Now you look at that and you're like, hey, it's pretty good, but you're not paying him to be pretty good. Like, you're paying him to be the best. You're paying him to be top 5 pitcher. Right? Maybe top 10. And he's not that. He hasn't been that. Last year, much better than this year. He was 11-5 last year, 2.29 ERA in 23 starts. And he will forever be remembered for just kind of faltering down the stretch when we needed him most. I think that's going to be his lasting legacy when we think about him in a Mets uniform. And then this year, he was 9-4, better winning percentage, but he had a ERA over 4 in 19 starts, and was giving up almost 2 home runs per 9 innings, which is the highest of his career. And I mean, so it wasn't a complete disaster, but we just didn't get, like, if he goes out and puts up similar numbers to what he put up last year, I think there's a much higher reluctance to trading him. And we're probably not in this position. Let's be honest. We're probably not 50-55 if he puts up the same numbers that he put up last year. So, I mean, I was not a big fan of when they signed him. I didn't like it because I was like, this is typical Mets bullshit where we sign a guy that everyone knows and is probably a future Hall of Famer, but is like twilight of his career. And I mean, you saw it a little bit with even in the previous, so 2021, when he went from the Nationals to the Dodgers, he goes 7-0, 1.98 ERA, but shit's like doesn't playoffs is non-existent. So, I mean, his ERA was better than his time with Detroit and Arizona. He started off in Arizona, he went to Detroit. So his ERA with the Mets was better than that. But you didn't like, that's not what you want. His 1.30 ERA plus is the third best of his career behind his time with Washington and then with LA. His whip is third best. Hits per 9 is third best. Much less walks than he had. And then strikeouts per 9. Yeah, I mean, he was striking out a lot of guys, but he's giving up a lot of home runs. So it's like his third best run was with us behind Washington and LA. In 2023, 4.01 ERA in 19 starts, allowed the 5th most home runs in baseball. And I think that's what drove a lot of fans nuts. That even though, like, there are times where, like, if you're the ace, if you're earning $43 million a year, you cannot either dig your team a hole like he did against the Red Sox, giving up 4 home runs, I think it was. And you also can't, when your team, on the rare occasion that your team gets out to a big lead, 5-0 lead, you can't blow that lead. So it's kind of like, those are the things that stick out to you. And of course, we ate a lot of his salary. We cover roughly about $36 million of his salary. So it's $9 million of the remaining $15 million in 2023. And then around $27 million to cover a part of his 2024 salary because Scherzer agreed to opt in. So what did we get in return? For me, a little bittersweet. Louis Angel, for all your whites. I'm a white. Louis Angel. Acuna Matata. Shortstop, second base, center field. He is the younger brother of Ronald Acuna. He's a top 60 prospect. I believe that's in all of Major League Baseball. And Ronald Acuna has come out and said that his little brother, Luis Angel, is better than him in all respects. So a couple of things that I think about that. One is initially you're like pretty psyched. You're like, oh shit, we got Acuna's little brother. And Acuna's saying he's better than he is. And Acuna is like basically the MVP this year. So that's good. What my conspiracy brain and why, I think I've poisoned myself too much with alcohol and my brain is at toxic levels. I think that I don't like this situation. The fact that he is Ronald Acuna's little brother, because it makes me think that he's a spy. This is an inside job. He's a double agent and that he's going to be selling the Mets down the river. On the hopes of eventually landing with his brother in the Braves. Like I just something about that doesn't sit well with me. But so that's the one that I think most Mets fans are pretty excited about. And then we have 2 more prospects that I think We'll look back on this trade deadline and say, wow, this might be the best trade deadline that we've had. Low key right now, people are like, well, fuck, we just gave up a bunch of major leaguers for a bunch of minor leaguers. Like there's no one that you really see making an impact right away in 2024, but you're building for the future, you know? Who knows what happens with Alonso? McNeil's getting older. Lindor is going to be around for a while. Nima's going to be around for a while. Alvarez is going to be around for a while. Beatty. But then, you still have some holes in that roster, in that lineup, and in that rotation. So we got a stockpile. So it makes sense what they did. To say this is an embarrassment, I know that Mike Francesa said this was an embarrassment for Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen, believe me, not embarrassed. This dude, has built a friggin' empire and an enormous amount of wealth on taking risks, making bets, taking acceptable losses, right? I think for a lot of teams, a lot of organizations, a lot of owners, having to eat all this salary on Scherzer and Verlander would cause hemorrhages. They'd have agita. I'm sure it tweaks Steve Cohen a little bit. He's like, he cringes, but it's not going to devastate him. It's not going to decimate him. So that's the beauty of having someone with a deep pocket, is like we got to believe the Barstool Mets podcast, just the fact that there's accountability. How many times have we seen the Mets organization take on a big contract and then not get anything of value in return? At least we're trying to make the best of a bad situation. So I think people are pretty high on Acuna. Let's just hope he's not. There's no espionage going on there behind the scenes. And then we come to the final trade, the big trade, the one that I think most people are most excited about, but also left a lot of fans wondering what the hell is the future of the Mets in 2024, the Justin Verlander trade. So this one's like, I think a lot of people that are either Mets fans or that are Mets haters would say, why would you sign a guy to a 3-year contract and bail on him a little over half of one season? And it's like, first and foremost, I want to say I was against this. I was against this from the get-go. As soon as his name was mentioned, I was like, stay away from him. That money is better used for 2 starters. Let's get 2 starters. Let's get a bullpen arm. Let's do more with that money than going all in on a pitcher, because in my mind, there was no way he was going to replicate what he did with the Astros in 2022. Last year he was 18-4 with a 1.75 ERA, 0.829 WHIP, led the league. 2.20 ERA plus, led the league. 6 hits per 9, led the league. His ERA led the league. His winning percentage led the league. Wins led the league. So it's like, I get it, man. He won the Cy Young. I get it. But at the same time, it just feels like he's due for a slip, a downfall. Like, wouldn't that be just the case? Like, and I was trying to be realistic. I was like, okay, he's not going to do that again. Let's just hope he puts up numbers similar to what he was doing when he with the Astros, when he had back-to-back All-Star seasons in 2018 and 2019 and won the Cy Young in 2019. But he's age 40, dude. Like, how many pitchers do you know at age 40 are going to come in and continue to dominate? So I was against the move from the get-go. And so I was like, if he's on the trading block, so be it. With the Mets, he went 6-5, 3.15 ERA in 16 starts. An ERA plus of 131. The numbers were not the same as what he had with the Astros. I mean, he was like, he did his best pitching with the Astros. And he's not giving us what he gave the Astros. So it's like, that's a big trade chip. Scherzer was a big trade chip. And I was for trading them. I was like, even if you are in the hunt, like, I don't know, I just felt like we we brought them in thinking that they would give us something more than they did. Like, they weren't disastrous. They weren't awful by any means. But I think when you talk about expectations and the amount of money that we invested in them, you wanted a little bit more. That's all. We're paying for $35 million on Verlander for this year, next year, and then half of the $35 million in 2025. His player option, which vests for $35 million if he throws at least 140 innings in 2024 at age 41. How many innings has he thrown? He's thrown 94 and a third this year, and he missed a huge chunk. He basically missed the first month plus of the season. He threw 175 innings in 2022. He's thrown, before that, he pretty much threw over 140 innings every single season except for 2015. So I guess odds are, yeah, he should hit that number, but again, age 41. I had pretty much given up on Verlander, probably prematurely, but he did have a 1.49 ERA in his last 7 starts, which is the third best in Major League Baseball during that time frame. But I mean, look at the return that we got. We got the Astros' number 1 prospect and their number 4 prospect. I think they're both outfielders. So ultimately, I view, and a lot of the grades that we got, I think the Robertson trade is probably the worst. But again, a rental closer, you're only giving them, the Marlins are only getting him for a couple months, if that. So and he's on the older side. So you're not going to, the return wasn't great, but it was all right. I think the returns that we got for Scherzer and Verlander are potentially organization changing, altering. So there are a handful of players that I think a lot of people wanted to be dealt and didn't. Brooks Raley, like I said, 35 years old. Adam Ottavino, 37 years old. Starling Marte, Carlos Carrasco, Daniel Vogelbach. It's pretty clear why Carrasco wasn't traded. There's just 0 people interested in giving anything up for that dude. He is the lowest WAR on the team and has been pretty atrocious the last couple of outings. So it's like, why would anyone take that on? Starling Marte, if he's healthy and didn't miss a chunk of time, and there weren't a bunch of speculation and rumors about lingering injuries, I think that he probably would have been dealt. And then Daniel Vogelbach, who has been getting hot of recent, I think was another person that a lot of people thought might get dealt, but understandable why there weren't a lot of takers there. So with all those trades, with all the fire sale, all the selling, all the key pieces and parts getting moved, people are like, we're punting on 2024. It's like, huh? How do you figure? It's like, yeah, we have a lot of holes on the roster, but you think we're just going to sit on our hands and not do shit? You don't think that we're not going to, I know Steve Cohen doesn't want to spend like a drunken sailor. And rumor has it that he's already stated that he's out on Shohei Ohtani. And you know what? As much as I love Ohtani, and I think it would be huge for the team, there's a part of me that winces thinking about the amount of money that we'd have to spend on one player. It's one thing to spend that money on 2 players where you have an ace pitcher and a solid DH, a slugger. But when you put all the eggs in that one basket, the one player, he goes down, you've now lost an ace and a slugger. As opposed to if the ace goes down, you still have the slugger. If the slugger goes down, you still have the ace. So throwing all that money at one guy limits your flexibility, especially when you are doling out all kinds of cash, paying off salaries of people that aren't playing here anymore. Robinson Cano, Bobby Bonilla, all that shit. So we need starting pitching. For the people that are acting like, oh, we're not going to have any pitchers next year, get the hell out of here, dude. All right, come on. You don't think that we're not going to make moves? I just hope that we don't go down this same road of overpaying an over-the-hill veteran, quote-unquote, stud, when there are probably plenty of nice, affordable, economy class pitchers out there that are affordable and that you can get more of. I think that's the important part. Because if you do decide, okay, Quintana is your guy, you're going to bring back Quintana. Kodai Senga is now officially your number one. You probably don't think that Peterson or McGill are like anything that you can rely on or depend on. Yeah, there's a lot of holes in the starting rotation. And I would say also the bullpen. So that's going to be the focus. You hope that Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos continue to develop. I think Vientos is a legit liability in the field. So I don't know where his place is. It's probably DH. You'd like to bring up Ronnie Mauricio, and I feel like all I see on Twitter is highlights from Ronnie Mauricio, but then I looked at his stats and it's like he's got like a 7-something OPS. It's not great. Then you move on from Omar Narvaez, and then Alonso is a free agent after 2024. So now we've gone from Pete Alonso is going to be a lifelong Met. He's going to get his number retired. He's going to be in the Mets Hall of Fame. He's right up there with David Wright and Darryl Strawberry and Hojo and all these sluggers that lead the franchise in home runs. He very well could be dealt at the trade deadline next year. How's your mind blown? I mean, that's pretty nuts to think about. And now there's all this talk about how he's not liked, like his teammates don't like him. He's too goofy. He's too dorky. And so that's affecting the clubhouse and like people don't want to play with him. It's just like, shit, man. How can you really? Is that annoying? Like he just seems like just a lovable dork, and goofy, but like, I don't know. I guess that's enough for the clubhouse to tune him out. You also have to, you have the Jeff McNeil situation, right? Where it's like him and Lindor, I don't know that they ever really patched things up and that they're probably not on good terms. And Lindor's your guy, right? You gave him that huge contract, so it seems like McNeil's the odd man out there. So who's locked and loaded? Who's locked in? It's like it's Lindor, it's Nimmo, and then it's what do you do from there? So yeah, I guess you could take the outlook that it's bleak. I'd choose a different outlook, a different perspective. I think, who would have thought that the Orioles would be like at the top of the AL East, a stacked AL East? Who would have thought the Baltimore friggin' Orioles would be sitting atop that throne? It's like I said, there's so many long games, so many long seasons that anything can happen, dude. A lot can happen in the off season. You don't really know. So I don't think, basically after David Robertson was traded, Scherzer goes to Mets brass and is like, what's going on here? And they're like, well, we're going to trade you to the Rangers, but you have to accept it. And they're like, yeah, but I want to know the direction of the organization. Like, we're going to compete in 2024, right? Like that's the goal. That's the object. And apparently, according to Scherzer, he paraphrased Billy Epler and said that Billy Epler said, "Nah, we hope to be competitive in 2025, but realistically, it'll be 2026 when we feel like we'll be competitive again." It's like, to me, that's Epler blowing smoke up Scherzer's ass. That's Epler being like, "You don't want to be here. Oh my God, we're in the middle of a rebuild," and like, even though he's telling the media like, "No, we're not in a teardown. No, we're not in a rebuild," it's like, yes, it is a rebuild, but it's not going to be a 3-year rebuild or a 2-year rebuild. I honestly don't think it's going to be a 2-year or 3-year rebuild. So he said that to Scherzer. So Scherzer accepts. He had to convince Scherzer to accept the trade so that they get Acuna back, And if you're Scherzer and you're Verlander, and Verlander's, and then they made a big deal about how Verlander, like, he's completely changed his outlook. It's like, what did you think? We're not winning with you guys, and we're paying you a ton of money. So, yeah, we're going to move on. And also, both y'all are going to teams that are looking like odds-on favorites to win the World Series, the Rangers and the Astros. So, these trades are literally the definition of win-win in just about every situation. But the fact that like we're not punting on 2024. And it's not going to be this long 2-year, 3-year thing, in my opinion. It could be as little as one season. I think it's 2 years max. These seasons are so long. So much can happen. Like, so I, to be all doom and gloom about the Mets, like, pass, dude. But that is the Mets, and I still believe until they get eliminated from the playoffs, and it's football season, baby. Speaking of football, let's talk New York Football Giants. Last episode on this subject matter was June 19th, and we've had a fair amount of transactions since then, and we've had some notable news. I won't go through everything, but Jared Davis going on the injured reserve list, that sucks because that was basically the main competition for Darian Beavers at the inside linebacker position next to Bobby Okereke. He came on towards the end of last season, had a pretty decent, strong performance, all things considered. And so in year 2, I think they had a lot of hope that he would step up and either be the starter or be like a dependable fill-in replacement. So to lose him stinks. We went out and signed Cole Beasley and James Robinson. We have so many friggin' wide receivers. It's insane. But it's literally the mantra, the mentality that I've had. It's like, hey, if we have a problem at a position, throw as many bodies at it as possible and someone will come out and shine. So obviously Beasley, having been a member of the Buffalo Bills, has a pre-existing relationship with Dable and Shane. And so I think that that goes a long way. Seems like he would be competing with Jameson Crowder in terms of being like a slot guy, but also a returner, right? A punt return, kick return guy. Kind of like gets me all giddy thinking about him and Crowder back there returning kickoffs. But James Robinson is an interesting signing. I don't know. He was with the Jags. I think he was with the Jets for a little bit. It sounded like he was unhappy in Jacksonville due to like lack of touches, losing touches to Etienne. It's like you're in a very crowded backfield with the Giants. I don't know that situation is going to change that much. And like now the running back room is a bit crowded. So it should be a pretty interesting training camp and preseason. Ellerson Smith, linebacker, was waived due to injury. Defensive tackle Vernon Butler was placed on reserve. He did not report, which is interesting. But Crowder and Sterling Shepard passed their physical, which is great news. It's I don't foresee, like I've said before, I don't foresee Shepard having that huge an impact on the field in terms of making plays. I've said it before. It's like the equivalent of the 2016 Victor Cruz. Like it's probably his last season. He'll give us some big plays here and there, but he's not going to put up like crazy numbers. And then J.C. Hassenauer, the center, was also placed on injured reserve today, August 1st. So that one was that sucks because it feels like that was like huge depth piece for us behind John Michael Schmitz. So those are the big. Those are most of the kind of minor transactions moves. The two big ones, though. Andrew Thomas signed to a contract extension, and Saquon Barkley signing the franchise tag. We'll talk about Andrew Thomas first. Second team All-Pro last season. He signed a 5-year, $117.5 million extension. So that means that he has the remaining 2 years on his rookie contract, 2023, 2024. And then he has 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. There's a potential out in 2027 where there would be just $3 million in dead money, which is like, based on inflation, that's like, what, $5, dude? But it would also create $19.4 million in cap savings. And if they don't take the out in 27, he'll be an unrestricted free agent in 2030, which is an actual year that exists. Oh, my God. So he's due $136.7 million over the next 7 years through the 2029 season. His $67 million are fully guaranteed at signing, is the most ever for an offensive lineman. Attaboy. And he becomes the second highest paid left tackle in the league. Well deserved, I might add. We only saved about $1 million for this year. But the sizable base salaries will give the team plenty of flexibility to restructure Thomas's contract if they need cap space in the future, according to The Athletic. And this is historic. We don't see this a lot. We have not signed a first-round pick to an extension after his third season since the rookie wage scale was instituted in the 2011 collective bargaining agreement. It's a combination of things. Poor draft history, I think, is number one. But we're projected to have around $51 million in cap space in 2024, which will be the 11th most in the league as of right now. So huge kudos. If we let him get to the free agent market, he would have reset the market value, and it just would have been a headache, right? It's like, I don't know if we would have been able to afford him at that point. And that's the kind of the benefit of doing this and having contract extensions well before they become an unrestricted free agent. There's a lot more leeway, and the impetus for Thomas to sign it was security. He did cite his ankle, though, when he said that. He's like, well, I've had the ankle, and I've had surgery on the ankle the past 2 seasons or whatever, first 2 seasons. And I was just like, what do you know that we don't know? What's going to happen with that ankle, dude? So that's a little concerning, but my God, that would be huge if we can just get the next 4 years, because that's the window, right? Next 2 to 3, 4 years, it feels like, because we'll have DJ, we have Dexter. It feels like you're building something nice. We have not had this in a long time. The ability to sign a bunch of our young talent to contract extensions and to know that they'll be here for a while and we can build around them. Those are our cornerstones, that kind of thing. And, we won't have to rely on free agency so much. I think that's the goal, right? Draft young, cheap talent, but then you can extend them before the contract is up and before they break the bank. So I think that was a huge move. And to me, that some people are saying, there are a lot of people saying like, okay, you signed DJ to this huge contract, Dexter to the huge contract, Andrew Thomas to a huge contract, but not Saquon. What the fuck? And to me, by showing the kind of investment in Daniel Jones and Andrew Thomas, the organization is showing Saquon, we do invest in young talent, and we believe in you, and look at what we're building. Like, this is not the same old Giants. This is not the Giants that you were accustomed to in your rookie season, your sophomore season, 2021. Your first 3 seasons, we weren't giving you what you needed. And now we are. We're giving you a quarterback that you're comfortable with, that you have a good rapport with, a left tackle, right, to keep your quarterback healthy. So our offense is not one-dimensional, right? We're building something here. And wouldn't you like to be part of that? So let's talk about Saquon Barkley. He agreed to the 1-year contract worth up to $11 million. That's the franchise tag plus incentives. It has $909,000 in incentives and a $2 million signing bonus. The incentives can be reached if Barkley hits 1,350 yards plus a playoff berth plus 65 receptions and 11 touchdowns. He'll earn $303,000 apiece each for those 3 milestones. It should be noted that he's never rushed for that many yards in a season, and he only reached 11 touchdowns and 65 receptions in his rookie season. So that's literally those are incentives. It's like, hey, we would like you to hit this. You never have, but it's like right there. We feel like you can do it. And here's money. So there will not be any in-season negotiations for Barkley. He'll have to wait until after the season to resume talks on a long-term deal. So his tag price will be $12.1 million for 2024. And that was not included in this kind of revised franchise tag situation where he probably could have asked for that to be removed, but he didn't. And so the team very well could place the franchise tag on 2024. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like this in my entire time as a Giants fan, where it went from the 2 sides are too far apart to he has to this date to sign the franchise tag to he didn't sign it, so now he's going to hold out to he signed it. Like, whoa. It was quite the roller coaster. But I'm very happy he signed it. And I honestly, I was very confident that they were going to work out a deal before July 17th and that we're going to get him long term. I'm less confident in it, but the fact that we can, I just don't think he would hold out. I know that he must be so conflicted because he's like, I feel like I need to make a stand for running backs. You know, it's not just for himself at this point. I mean, I'm sure that's a huge component of it, but it's like he's almost like become this figurehead for the running back market movement, where it's like, you know, they're getting on friggin' Zooms and airing their grievances. You know, it's like friggin' Festivus up in this bitch because, you know, running backs feel so disrespected. And look, dude, it's unfortunate. I get it. But when I've reviewed everything that's become public about what the Giants are offering him, it feels fair-ish. It's like, I would love to pay Saquon all that money, but at what cost, right? What does that cost your team in terms of ability to sign other people or to maintain your core, right? So the Athletic had an article about were Giants comps for Saquon Barkley fair, re-examining the failed negotiations. So this is essentially they were saying if the players, representatives, and the player have a comp in mind, and the organization has a comp in mind, and they match and align, well then there you go. That seems pretty painless. You can sign it and let's move on. Apparently the comps did not align for the Giants and Saquon Barkley, for Joe Shane and Barkley. And I gotta say, at first glance, we're gonna like go through it a little bit more in detail. But at first glance, it's like, I think Barkley's got a very strong case. And even though a lot of people are saying like he doesn't have any leverage, look at the running back market, blah, blah, blah. Dalvin Cook released, Ezekiel Elliott released, you know, Aaron Jones taking a pay cut. Like, you know, it's tough out in the streets for the running backs. I get it. So he doesn't have a lot of leverage, but you look at like the numbers, which we'll get to, and it's like, he's got a pretty strong case. So there are, the first comp that I think the Giants are using is they're comparing him to Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb. And they're saying that he's more of a downhill runner and that he is not considered a pass receiving threat, which is, it's wrong. It's wrong. You know, so what the Athletic did is they compared the numbers between Saquon, Derrick Henry, and Nick Chubb during the time frame before they were tagged or extended, right? So Barkley has played probably the same amount of games as Derrick Henry, around 60 games. He has way more carries, more yards, not as much yards per carry, like 0.3 less, and he has less touchdowns, but he has way more receptions than Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, not really a threat in the passing game. And same thing with Nick Chubb. You know, Nick Chubb has more yards per carry, not as many touchdowns, but way less games, and then 72 receptions in 44 games. So I think if you were to extrapolate on that, it would align. I don't know. It would be close. It'd be closer, but at the same time, like, what is that? 44, 60, 16 games. It's like a full season. He's still not hitting that reception number. So if you look on an average basis, right? So those were totals. If you look on an average basis, Barkley has probably around the same amount of carries as Nick Chubb, less yards than Chubb, less touchdowns, but like 4 times the receptions and yards there. So it's not an accurate comp from the Giants side of things. They're looking at it as if he's Henry or Chubb, and he's not. And so Barkley is saying, I am more akin to Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara, which I wholeheartedly agree with. You know, McCaffrey, Barkley thinks he's the best running back in the league, and he's gone on record to say he's not even asking for that money, right? As if he's the best running back in the league. He's not even asking for what he believes he's worth. And McCaffrey owns the top contract among running backs. And so he just wants something that's in the ballpark, right? that to me, that means he wants something that's above Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, and within sniffing distance of McCaffrey and Kamara. So if you look at it on the sum level, total, the numbers are, I don't want to say identical, but very similar in terms of yards per carry, in terms of touchdowns, receptions. He's in that tier. Even if you look at the averages, he gets more carries on average. He gets more rushing yards on average. And he gets a little less receptions, but not anywhere near. The disparity is not as great against McCaffrey and Kamara as it was with Chubb and Henry. So yeah, he's in that same class as McCaffrey and Kamara, and dare I say, he's a bit of a bull. That's what makes him so freaking great that people don't understand. He has the strength of a Chubb and a Henry, can be that workhorse, but can also catch the ball and be a threat like McCaffrey and Kamara. I will take this to my grave. There's no running back like Saquon Barkley. And yeah, so there's no question that he's going to get that contract that McCaffrey has if he doesn't get hurt. If he doesn't get hurt in 2019, in 2020, and 2021, if he's not getting hurt those 3 seasons, there's a no-brainer. Like, he's getting that contract. The problem is he did get hurt. He has the injuries. I honestly think the injury bug he got it out of his system. I just don't see that being a thing anymore. I would like to see the team not rely and lean on him as much. I think they should preserve him a little bit more and be more strategic with how they use him. And these numbers that he's putting up that are comparable to these top running backs have been without a fucking offensive line. Does that matter? You have to put that into consideration. So I want him to be a Giant for the rest of his days. I would love to see that happen. Given how things are turning out, it's like, what does he have to do? Like, if he doesn't hit all those incentives, he gets the 1,300 plus rushing yards, the touchdowns, the receptions, and the playoff berth. If he gets franchise tag in 2024, I think he feels like, as much as he doesn't want to, he would hold out if he does hit all those incentives. Now, say he rushes for 1,000 yards. He has 30 to 40-ish receptions. He just misses the touchdown mark. We just missed the playoffs. Then you're in a bit of a pickle, and I think that the Giants will be more likely to put the franchise tag on him, and then it's going to be touch and go. But the thing that's working in our favor to sign him is the fact that we will have so much more salary cap space in 2024. And you have to think, and maybe that's why I'm not a great businessman and I'm not good at negotiations, but they would at least kind of indicate to him, hey, it's a little tight this year, but next year we'll give you the bag. So I'm just glad it got done. And, I think he's going to have another stellar year. So, you worry a little bit about the following year, but I think that this is our window, right? 2023, 2024, 2025 feels like that 2 to 3 year window where it's like, we got to make it happen. In terms of training camp notes and takeaways, there aren't a ton. I think the biggest news, the 3 big items I think are Darren Waller. That hype train continues to rumble on. And I understand it is training camp and it's like not a game situation. But so far it's been reported that he's been a nightmare matchup for linebackers. He's a nightmare matchup for safeties. It's like you just put it in the vicinity and he's going to catch it and he'll win that battle 10 times out of 10. So I really trying to temper expectations, but he just got to stay healthy. Just stay healthy, please, for the love of God. One surprising note from the training camp is the emergence of Trey Hawkins III. So this dude, all of a sudden, in the span of feels like 24, 48 hours, has gone from sixth round draft pick who might see the field in like dime situations to possibly CB2, where Adoree Jackson gets moved into the slot and Trey Hawkins is starting opposite Deonte Banks. We got 2 rookies starting on the outside, which normally I think a lot of fans would be like, oh boy, start shaking in the boots and shitting the britches. I am very excited about that. I don't know. It got me fired up. The fact that Adoree Jackson can be moved into the slot, and it feels like if that's the case, and it probably isn't the case and won't be the case, but it does throw a little doubt into the opposing offensive coordinator's mind, right? Because it's like, wait a second, to mix up the looks is only going to benefit us, especially if we can master those looks, right? I think that's the key part of it. You throw a bunch of looks out there, but everyone's lost and confused, like that's a recipe for disaster. But the fact that if these players can come in and line up at different positions on the field, that's going to, it's going to cause a lot of delay games or a lot of mistakes, and it's only going to work in our favor. So, I mean, I feel like that was my entire timeline was just Trey Hawkins highlights of like, here's him breaking up a pass, on a tough play. Here's another tough play. Here's another pass breakup. Like he's just like white on rice. So that is great to hear. And of course, the comp that we're talking about comps with Saquon Barkley. The comp with Trey Hawkins III is the DRC. The relative athletic score for Trey Hawkins is 9.82, where DRC in 2008 was 9.88. I mean, I'm looking at it here, and I wish I could show it to you on the video. Like everything is just almost identical. Height, weight, bench, 40-yard dash. He's not as fast as DRC, but the 20-yard split, the 20-yard split is his 20-yard split is better. 10-yard split, not as great. Vertical, not that far off. He's like an inch lower vertical than DRC. His broad jump is right there. His shuttle is better. And his 3-cone is even. So 2008 DRC. We got DRC, what was it, 7 years in, where maybe he did lose a step, but I was a big fan of DRC when he was on the team. So I think that's really good news for the Giants if Trey Hawkins can pan out. A 6th round draft pick. There's a tweet I saw that said, outside of Darius Slayton, the late rounds have been an insulting wasteland for the team. And, my first reaction to that is, well, yeah. I mean, name a late round player from 2011 or later that has really stood out and been a key contributor. It's tough. I mean, Daniel Bellinger is a 4th rounder, I gotta go to Franchise Encyclopedia. Duh, dude. Duh. Let's look here. All right. I mean, if Darian Beavers ends up starting and making a difference, then that's another 6th rounder that could be a nice little steal. 2021 is pretty much a huge wash. Like unless Gary Brightwell discovers go-go juice or something. 2020 is not looking great. 2019, we had Julian Love in the 4th. If Ryan Connolly doesn't get hurt, tears his ACL, maybe as a 5th rounder, he comes out and is something special. 2018 draft, no. 2017 draft, no. 2016 draft, no. Although Paul Perkins is a 5th rounder, he just completely fell off the cliff. And Bobby Hart was a starter as a 7th rounder, but was quickly shipped out after 2017. Devin Kennard, 5th rounder in 2014, was a solid pass rusher that I was kind of hoping we would hold on to. But yeah, I mean, like 2013, no. 2012, no. 2011, no. Except maybe Jacqueline Williams, 6th rounder, who had some big plays in the playoffs, but like overall wasn't anything special. Matt Dodge, 7th round, 2010. Yuck. Andre Brown, 4th rounder in 2009. Jonathan Goff, 5th rounder in 2008. Meh. And that, yeah, I mean, we talk about that 2007 class all the time. Ahmad Bradshaw, 7th round. Kevin Boss, 5th round. And Michael Johnson, 7th round. But yeah, dude, it's been a rough go of it. Looking back, 5th rounder later. Jabril Wilson, 5th round in 2004, was pretty solid. Derek Ward, 7th rounder. Tyrese, a 6th rounder. David Deal, 5th rounder. Yeah, I just Dhani Jones, 6th round, 2000. Mike Rosenthal, 5th round, 99. Sam Garnes, 5th round, 97. Charles Way, 6th round, 1995. Chad Bratsky, 5th round, 94. Jesse Armstead is, of course, 8th round, 93. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I think it's pretty generally accepted that a lot of the later round guys don't usually pan out. So to have Trey Hawkins stand out is just really refreshing news. And then, that the reporters have been reporting, as they do, that Deonte Banks is struggling. And and I think I don't know where I saw this, but it's like, it feels like a similar situation to what Dayball did with Daniel Jones last year. He's like, I got to find out what I have with this guy. I'm going to test him. And what better way to test him than right out the gate in training camp? Let's just fire away. Let's throw everything at him and see how he comes out of it. Let's test his mental fortitude, his toughness, tenacity, all that stuff. And so I think they're doing that with Deonte Banks as well, because they have a feeling that they have something great and special, but they just want to make sure. And so I think that's what's happening with Banks. So I'm not too worried about Banks, to be honest. And speaking of Darius Slayton, right? A later round pick, 5th round pick. He might be my favorite Giant. I just like, and I saw some videos on Twitter of like highlighting his transformation, right? Because like the major knock on him is he drops balls, right? That's pretty much it. He drops balls. He drops short things, easy catches he drops. And just seeing, here's him from training camp last year and the year before to training camp this year, where it's a fairly simple adjustment, I think, in theory, but in practice might be different, where he is extending his arms, not letting the ball get into his body, and reaching out to the ball, and the ball stops when it hits his hands. So there's no fumbling, bumbling, any of that. So I think you're going to see not a much different Slayton, but there's not going to be as many drops this year, which has been the major knock on him. And I think we all agree that if he eliminates the drops, that he can be a really solid wide receiver 2 and a phenomenal wide receiver 3. So that's most of the notes from training camp, other than Daniel Jones looks great. He looks locked in. That's the note. That's the news. And training camps are always tough. You don't know what you're getting, right? And I think, there are good days and bad days. But apparently the buzz around camp is that it feels good. Like it feels different. It feels like everyone's kind of bought in. They're locked and loaded. They're ready to go. And they're prepared for having a really great season. And the emergence of Jalen Hyatt, right? We initially heard that he was running with a third team, and now we're seeing him with the first team. Had a great catch from Daniel Jones along the sideline, got his feet in, and then his speed is topped out at 24 miles per hour, which is like tops. I don't know that we've seen that a lot around these premises, around camp. So his speed is real, which is great. And the fact that he's now getting a handle on route running is only up from here. So I'm very excited about Jalen Hyatt, very excited about the offense, very excited about the defense. Fuck this tough schedule. We're going to take it head on. And, maybe we don't get the 1 seed, but we're going to be that sneaky 5, 6, 7 seed that goes in somewhere and upsets someone. I really do. Obviously, a lot that hinges on health, and we have not been a healthy team. I mean, the amount of wins we've lost due to injury is we're among the tops in the league, which sucks. So, how are Dable and Shane addressing that? I don't know, but I'm very excited, but I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much because it's like we've been on this road before, but it does feel different. It sounds different, right? A lot of the reporting from training camp is like, so-and-so looks good. So-and-so looks good. This is like, there's none of this. Like, you remember last year we were lost our minds over Daniel Jones, like not connecting with Kenny Galladay on a 5-yard out. And it was just like, the world is burning. This year, it's like we're seeing Jason Pinnock coming up with like an OBJ style one-handed interception. And now he's like the favorite to win the starting safety job opposite Xavier McKinney. And the Jalen highlights are addictive. They're like drugs. So it just feels like if we can just stay healthy, we're going to be the dark horse of the conference. Book it. And I think people are still underestimating Daniel Jones, not to sound like a crazed Daniel Jones defender, but The Athletic put out an article about quarterback tiers for 2023, right? There's, I guess there's 4 tiers. So these are not like rankings necessarily. It's more of tiers and like what quarterbacks fall into which tier, right? It's like really hot in the streets. Tier 1 quarterback can carry his team each week. The team wins because of him. He expertly handles pure passing situations, has no real holes in his game. And this group includes Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Aaron Rodgers, which I wholeheartedly 1000% disagree with. And I know that there are Jets fans that think like, oh, Giants fan trying to shit on Jets team. No. I'm also a Mets fan. and I just did a fucking hour-long segment about how we shouldn't have signed Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, and lo and behold, we traded them before their contracts were up. So and knowing the history of Brett Favre and what he did with the Jets, I don't think Rodgers, and I can't wait to be freezing cold takes exposed. I think Rodgers is going to have a mediocre season. I don't see him having an excellent, great top season. So the fact that he's in tier 1, it's like that's based on precedence, I think, and previous experience and previous play. It's not, I don't think this is like they didn't take into consideration what's going on in 2023. Again, I think he puts them in a position to be in the playoff hunt, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make the playoffs. So that's a tier 1. Justin Herbert, too, made my face squinch up because I wanted the Giants to draft him, and I wanted him to be on the New York Giants. And I do get very envious and jealous when I do watch him play. That being said, does he carry the team? I don't know. But let's talk about tier 2 and whether or not that applies to Justin Herbert. A tier 2 quarterback can carry his team sometimes, but not as consistently. He can handle pure passing situation in doses and or possesses other dimensions that are special enough to elevate him above tier 3, and he has a hole or 2 in his game. And this grouping includes Jalen Hurts, okay, Lamar Jackson, okay. I think a lot of people might say, why is Lamar Jackson in tier 2, not tier 1? I would tend to agree with them. I feel like it's only because Lamar has not gotten to a championship game. But then again, Justin Herbert's in that mix. So that's where I get a little confused. I would have put Lamar Jackson probably tier 1, because how many times has he put that offense on his back and won? Dak Prescott, whatever, dude. I disagree with that, but Matthew Stafford, okay. Deshaun Watson is a weird selection. I just feel like he's been away from the game for so long, and we haven't seen him do what they're saying he can do in so long. I would not have put him in tier 2. And then Kirk Cousins, which based on his performance with the Vikings, I would say, yeah, that makes sense. So the last one, though, is what drives me bonkers. Trevor Lawrence? You fucking serious? Trevor Lawrence is a tier 2 quarterback? What? Why? That is like mind-blowing to me. I put it in bold caps with exclamation points, and that means quoi? I disagree with that like 1,000 times over. What do I know? And then we get to tier 3. A tier 3 quarterback is a legitimate starter, but needs a heavier run game and or defensive component to win. A lower volume drop back passing offense suits him best. So in this tier, we have Jimmy Garoppolo, Geno Smith, Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill, and Mac Jones. And then we have our boy, DJ, Daniel Jones. This season is going to obliterate. He's going from tier 3 to tier 2. Mark it, book it, stamp it, seal it, send it off, ship it out. Daniel Jones is going to go from a tier 3 quarterback to a tier 2 quarterback in this next season. Will he ever get to tier 1 status? Whew. I don't know. That's a toughie, but I do think he belongs in tier 2, and he'll prove that over the course of this season. I honestly think that Daniel Jones, he beat Kirk Cousins. I think he has more to offer than Deshaun Watson. I don't know. I didn't watch enough of Deshaun Watson last year to really, I don't think that he did much to really make me think that he should be in tier 2. I know he, I don't know. The only game that I really watched him start to finish was when he played the Giants, when he's with the Texans, and it was like, he just makes a lot of mistakes. Stafford, I think, is in decline. He's in the twilight of his career, so I don't think that he's really a tier 2 quarterback anymore. And this season will prove that out. Dak Prescott carries the team sometimes. I don't know. I think he's benefited from a fucking amazing running game, and the Cowboys' defense of late has been huge. So I understand why Jalen Hurts is in tier 2, and I think a lot of people, especially Eagles fans, would think that he should be in tier 1. I just don't. I think he's at the bottom. He's borderline tier 3. Like, if the Eagles don't have that fucking defense and that offensive line, what do you have in Jalen Hurts? I don't know. So it's tier 3, but he's going to prove the haters wrong. I know that much. And we're not going to get into the free agent preview for 2024. It's way too early. What the hell is going on? So I just want to thank you all for listening and watching. It's a lot. I get that. And I appreciate it. I appreciate your consideration and your time. So thank you. And I know the Mets just got walked off on some weird technicality rule by the Royals, but let's go Mets. And I know it's a lot of people are going to laugh and scoff at my predictions for the Giants, but let's go Giants. And we'll talk to you next week or next episode. Adios, muchachos.